humanity deserves to be re-educated on environmental issues. Over time, humans have evolved. At first, they were nomads, wandering as just another species through forests and plains, forming small communities, helping each other to protect themselves from threats, and learning from the experiences of other humans and other species, such as the collaborative and organized work of bees or ants with their queens. They also learned the concept of territoriality from wild animals. Yes, even in the Neolithic period, they learned to defend the lands they inhabited, which they had surely chosen for their access to water and food. And wars were born. And we began to forget about coexistence with everyone and with the environment, which was no longer common ground or a place to share, but a particular space of existence, and we gradually forgot about the environment, only using nature for our benefit. Getting to the point, the fresh waters of rivers were not contaminated at that time, and the remains of food plants and animal waste were absorbed by the earth which buried them, and today shows us traces of the past through archaeology in deep excavations. But times have changed. In those days, salt was very valuable because they discovered that food could be preserved by soaking it in salt and drying it in the air, without the need for refrigerators that today use polluting gases. Salt was so valuable that work was valued in portions of salt or salaries. And so evolution continued until today, where the earth is divided into countries with different ethnicities and habits that forget or disdain coexistence between the human species and other species, and underestimate coexistence with the earth itself. It is time to relearn, because it is no longer so important to know where we come from, but where we are going as humanity. Human bodies are more than 60% water. We live on water, our food grows with water, and our planet is 70% covered by water. In the seas, a natural fish fauna grows that could feed us all with responsible exploitation that does not deplete or extinguish species. However, only a small portion of the available water is drinkable, and the world population has grown unimaginably in recent times, thanks to advances in medicine and science, and more than 8 billion inhabitants require more drinking water. But we insist on contaminating it, whether through insufficient treatment of wastewater from populations and industries, or through the incorporation of agrochemicals into agricultural production, instead of applying the evolution of science and genetics for immunity to pest. Moreover, instead of taking advantage of bacterial life through biodigesters to return treated wastewater to the land away from underground aquifers, we return it contaminated and untreated directly to the aquifers, from which we later drink. Our planet and its inhabitants live, move, feed, and are literally energy forms whose main resource is the sun, the king star, God in ancient times, an infinite source of energy available for all forms of life. Light, winds, tides, thanks to the moon, storms and rains, which are the main way of purifying evaporated water, agricultural production, forests, jungles, and every species that coexists on our terrestrial home. Everything is possible thanks to the sun, which ties us to its center and even defines human time when we celebrate a new trip around the sun. However, instead of obtaining energy by capturing it through wind, solar panels, hydroelectric or tidal power, we insist on extracting it from the depths of the planet and convert it into usable energy by burning the resource, which, for example, in internal combustion engines, has an energy efficiency of only 27%. That is, in this case, we work hard to waste 73% of the energy and pollute the atmosphere that contains us with greenhouse gases. Since time immemorial, we have been accustomed to using the resources that the earth provides us and consequently producing waste, which the earth processes and absorbs. That is the idea that instinctively governs us. This functioning has evolved as the population and agricultural production have grown, leading to globalized production with individual packaging and different production and marketing strategies. Urban solid waste, as well as other industrial, agricultural, and other categories of waste, have grown exponentially. It is insufficient to talk about reducing, reusing and recycling waste when we do not raise awareness among the general population on how to do it, and when waste is not part of the studies in the production chain of food and essential supplies for modern life. On average, an inhabitant of the Earth produces more than 1.2 kilograms per day of urban solid waste, and although its treatment has been studied, little is done well in this regard. We are accelerating the contamination of the planet with the emission of greenhouse gases, produced both by the mismanagement of solid waste and by liquid and gaseous effluents, and even by the production of cattle, which contributes 16% of greenhouse gases. The treatment of waste for a human population that exceeds 8 billion inhabitants and that destroys and contaminates the Earth's natural filters such as jungles and seas is crucial for the evolution and survival of our human species. The much-discussed climate change has increased since the Industrial Revolution and has accelerated strongly in the last century, as it is caused by everything we do recklessly with resources and solid, liquid and especially gaseous effluents. It is generally measured as the increase in the planet's average temperature, which causes extreme weather events. It could be said that it is the acceleration of the Earth's natural cycles, which normally occur over centuries and historically have allowed species to adapt over several generations to environmental changes. The Earth has had many glaciations and periods of prolonged droughts and floods in its history, which caused massive migrations of species to places where survival was possible. However, rapid evolution and our careless behavior regarding the consequences of overexploitation of resources